So, in this video, I'm going to talk about my personal favorite subject in astrology, and this is Pluto, because Pluto is life and death, and Pluto is death and rebirth, and Pluto is power games, power struggles. Pluto is power. Pluto is our inner power. Pluto is the stuff we don't want to face. It's dirty. It's scary. It's hard. It's not something people like to think about or talk about. But I can talk about it. I can talk about Pluto all day because I have Pluto right in my first house and opposing my moon. So I know all about Pluto. I also have a trine my sun. So Pluto. When you have So in this video, I really want to focus on oppositions and having a Pluto opposition, a major Pluto opposition in your chart. So the moon or the sun or the ascendant, or having Pluto on your descendant. If you have a Pluto opposition, what an opposition is like a tug of war. It's like the two planets that are opposing each other are just constantly fighting. They don't want to see eye to eye. They just want to scream at each other nonstop. So imagine having Pluto in your first house and then having your sun in the seventh house. So you're constantly battling with yourself. And because you're battling with yourself so much, you're also battling with the others in your environment, because you haven't yet maybe faced yourself completely, which is what Pluto wants you to do when you have a major Pluto opposition in your chart. And this can feel awful because you want to find that middle ground. You want to find that middle ground so bad, but you just want to fight it because Pluto can be a bitch, and you're gonna want to fight it. The lesson with Pluto is obviously not to fight it, is to let it transform you, because that's all you really can do in the end. But in opposition, if you have a major Pluto opposition, like the moon, for example, you're always going to have that tug of war. You're going to have to facing yourself and others. You're always going to have that sort of inner struggle, and you might even feel at times like you can't stand yourself, because you're constantly fighting with yourself. And this is really, really difficult for people who have Pluto so strongly aspecting their charts. Sort of the lesson to learn, and this happens probably during Pluto transits, is to find that middle ground between your personal planet and Pluto. So you can find that middle ground in many different ways. Some people find it through spirituality. Some people find it through art. Some people find it through relationships. Finding that middle ground so that you're not always fighting yourself and others. And if you think for a minute that you're not always going to be fighting something with a Pluto opposition, you're dead wrong, because it's always going to be there. That those control themes are always going to be there. That manipulation and the power games and the need and desire to control yourself or another constantly is always going to be there. So we're going to have to deal with this energy whether we like it or not. So if you're having a Pluto opposition transit, my advice to you would to just be, let it happen, let it transform you, and try to look within yourself really deeply to see how you're projecting your issues onto other people. That's what you really have to do with an opposition like that, is you have to look at yourself really, really deep in the mirror. Take a good look and search within yourself to find what it is that exactly that you don't like about yourself and that you're projecting out into the world. that's causing chaos and causing people to stir you up, causing people to make your life hell. And life can be hell when you're having a Pluto transit, and you're a Pluto opposition person. So really, I think the whole thing is about searching within yourself, taking that time to yourself to find what it is that bothers you about you. And once you do that, once you really find that inner self-work, you can eventually start to deeply, and when I say deep, Pluto represents things deep within. So when you finally find that sort of inner peace, you can find it so deeply and so much more meaningfully in your relationships with other people. I think that Pluto oppositions are also very, very deeply about the others in our lives. For example, when Pluto was 2 degrees away from my sun, I attracted myself a very, very turbulent relationship. And it was a very Plutonian relationship too. The person and I had many, many Pluto issues that we weren't facing within ourselves. I have Pluto opposing my moon, and he had Pluto opposing my moon, which was quite disastrous in the end. But what I didn't realize at that time was that I wasn't facing my own shit. I wasn't facing my own inner demons. I wasn't facing myself. And so the Pluto transit, what was doing was asking me to face my own shit, to look deep within before I tried to search for it in another, because the other was going to make my life hell until I did that. So a major lesson that we all have to learn with these Pluto oppositions is to find what we are asking for, or find what we really don't like about ourselves, and try to figure out why, and spend some time alone to try to figure out what the problem is, so that we don't keep finding it in the other people. And this also applies to power struggles. What is it that you can't stand about losing control? And then figure that out before, because people are going to challenge you when you're having a Pluto opposition transit. And it's not easy. It's never easy. And it doesn't really get easier either. But there's ways in which we learn how to cope. And maybe I'll get into that in another video once I figure out more of how to cope with this energy. So anyway, any questions about this stuff, feel free to leave it in the comments. I hope you enjoyed this video.